Hello, Revan619 here, and I've got a Satan Shard here with a couple of million health. So, recently there's been a lot of discussions about what's OP and what isn't OP, and what should be buffed, what should be nerfed, and with 1.3 just around the corner, I wanted to put together a little video to show, yes, Executioner is that overpowerful. When it comes to buffing and nerfing, the worst thing that any game developer can do is just follow blindly whatever the common voice on Reddit is arguing. Because no offense to Reddit, but they're not very knowledgeable about the game. People make assumptions without testing, or they get hyper-focused on one thing, and they argue in bad faith and ignore every possible other outcome. So, recently, people have discovered that I think the two weakest classes in the game are Vanguard and Assassin. Now, that's not to say they're not usable, it's not to say they're not viable. It is strictly to say they are harder to play than the other classes and do less requiring more. That doesn't mean you can't use it to beat the game. That doesn't mean you can't set up incredibly niche endgame scenarios in Act 5 where you can do some insane damage. Because the thing is, your characters get so overpowered by Act 5, every setup that you do is going to be insane. And with that in mind, some people can't understand those basic points, and they've recently been obsessively spam messaging me on Discord, on Reddit, sometimes comments on YouTube, complaining that, no, their Vanguard or their Assassin is OP, Executioner's overrated, Executioner's not very strong, blah, 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 blah. Because they don't understand how the classes work, because they haven't bothered to understand the game mechanics or test it. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when it comes to stacking both Medicae and dots before you use Where It Hurts with the Executioner gloves, you can do over 1 million damage in a single hit. So there's a reason why I'm doing this. So a lot of the ridiculous setups they'll use Ghost Town, they use controlled shots. So I'm going to use the exact same setup that someone who was recently spamming me was using, just to show off what you can do with better classes. So yes. So the point of this here is, I'm going to use Heinrich. So I'm not even using a custom rogue trade. Custom rogue trade would be much more powerful because I'd have much better origin, I'd have much better homeworld, and I could stack more. So I'm going to use Heinrichs. I haven't even respec'd my builds from my blind playthrough when I first went through before Grimdark. So these builds are not optimized for what I want them to do. But I'm still going to show you some absolute insanity. So the idea here is I'm going to use Idra to buff up Heinrichs with an increased side rating from Ghost Helm. Heinrichs as well is also going to be buffed up. The other one that bugs me is when people try to say that certain classes are OP and then they use equipment that you can't get in the game. So I'm not using any unobtainable equipment like some people do when they make these bad faith arguments. So yes, so I think the one he did, he set the shard to 3 million, so mine's 4 times better because it's 4 million. But let me just show off some of this as well. Some people will say that, oh, you should do it solo, only solo damage counts. If your build can't play from Act 1 to Act 5 solo, I don't care what you can do solo in Act 5 when there's only 20 minutes of game left. You can't move goalposts like that. You have to be consistent about it. You either play the build as a party. If you're having to respec the build itself isn't good. It's a respec. It's not a build. A build is something that you can use to play through the game. So that's why I said I have not respected my Heinrichs from my default blind run of the DLC. Because that's the only save file I have. Because every other max slider run I've done has been on Grimdark. So I don't have any other saves that I could change equipment and respec to load earlier. So, as you can see here, I am just building up Heinrichs' dodge. So this is so when it comes around to Heinrichs and Idra again, that I will be able to set up some turn looping. Alright, so now that I've got really high psi rating on Idra and Heinrichs, I'm actually now going to buff Heinrichs with Idra to show off what he can do. I'm also going to set some Bounty Hunter loops on these shard copies, so that way I can then show off what I can do with the buffs. I've also got Corpse Conversion, so the more targeted buffs, the more... God damn it, Idra. Okay, So, I'm not going to use Party Burst to show of how strong I can make an Executioner. I'm just going to show you based on the Executioners. God damn it, Idra. No, I'm not going to redo the test. I'm not going to re-record this. We're just going to keep going. This will prove my point of how ridiculous this is. I'm just going to power through. I could have called the stats to 999 turn 1. It's stupid. The other thing, some people turn off the Shard's ability to have his invulnerability phase using Toy Box. I've only used Toy Box to increase the Shard's health, and I'm on max sliders. I have not removed any of its abilities like some people do. I consider that people who do that, they're kind of cheating, in my opinion. Like, I'm not going to lower the damage and of the enemies. I'm not going to fuck with the turn order. I'm not going to do anything that... I'm not going to turn off any of their abilities, so I can be like, he solos 1 turn. No, this guy interrupts people. It's part of his gimmick. So I'm not going to do that. So the first thing is, with really high psi rating, we're going to buff ourselves, we're going to orchestrate ourselves, we're going to inflame ourselves. I would have been able to do that 4 more times if Idra hadn't blown herself up, but at the moment my high mix is at psi rating 83, I think that was. So now, we're going to kill the copies to build up our Medicaid because we have Voidborn's Pride. Already, our damage is bloody insane, and we get, every time we kill with melee, we get 0 AP charge. So we have infinite attacks, and our kills will also, they generate movement. So we have infinite attack and movement, so that's Warrior. So that, some people will try to say that Vanguard or Assassin's OP because of what Warrior can do, and I'm sorry, if your class doesn't work on the other possibilities because it requires the specific base class to be able to do anything because of attack limits, or because of movement limits, yeah, your class is probably not that overpowered. It's crutching on the base class, whereas Executioner can be OP on Blade Dancer or Warrior, and even if you do a ranged version, it can be OP using the Toxin Burst weapons on Operator to still do insane damage. But anyway, so we're going to keep building up these stacks. Like I said, I was going to show how I could build infinite stacks in turn 1 using healing, buff loops, and also using the AP generation, because you can, with buff loops, you can give yourself max health on every melee by getting your toughness up. However, because Idra died, I can't do that. So... Mr. 4 million HP here, we're just going to charge in, and the point here is we're going to do damage based on charging and doing other stats. His health's dropped down to 3 million because of debuffs from allies, because I can drop him from 4 million down to a fraction of that using debuffs off Sniper Operative and also from the Navigator. But what we're doing here is we're building up Toxin, Bleed, and Fire by doing these basic attacks. So obviously he gets an invulnerable interrupt phase to resummon some things. Like I said, I've not turned off that ability. Some people turn that off so they can show off, oh, look at my 1 turn. But, as you can see, the damage we're doing is obscene. Oh, I just need to move just a little bit. And yeah, you can see our movement as well. It's just through the damn roof. I need a foothold. But of course. And I've also got more, like, so the Temperis Elite Backpack on a chainsaw, it increases your burst by. So instead of having 4 hits, I've got 7, sometimes 8, depending on how high my ballistic score goes. But yeah, I'll use Crimson Rage here. We'll get some more AP. The reason is because in this phase, turn 1, the shard will interrupt us before we can one-shot it. So if I tried to do where it hurts now, it would actually nullify a big chunk of my damage because of his interrupt phase, because it interrupts burst attacks, it interrupts dots. Whereas if you say you build up assassins to 1 hit, you can actually kill it before it does the interrupt. But because of the way that the hits are multi-proc, naturally it can't get through that, because as you see here, he's going to put a lot of the damage to 0 just so he can survive and then paralyze him. So already we've dropped him down to 1 million. So he has a lot of stacks on him right now. But you'll see, so just, it says that the base damage without any dots is already 30k here. And then it's going to hit multiple times as well. But what he'll do here is he'll actually freeze my character and he'll become invulnerable. See, 0 damage. So that, if it doesn't do that, that's how I can tell someone's cheated. Because they've removed his ability to do that to try and make a point. So it's going to go into turn 2. I'm not going to have anyone else like damage the shard. Again, I just want to show you how much he's going to do. So the boss still has over 1 million HP, and I'm going to one-shot him. Because, so one of the little tricks with Assassin is Killing Edge scales based on how much missing HP the enemy has. So naturally, if you edit enemies to have more HP, Assassin does more damage. But the thing is, it's not possible for it to do that level of damage in the base game. Whereas what I'm going to do with Executioner, the more trash mobs you have, the more damage you do. So it's actually very possible for it to just naturally do what I'm going to do. So, yeah, so Heinrichs will take his turn, and I'm just going to show you me one-shotting the boss. Now, the reason I don't use Ghost Helm, I don't like the stacking, is after your main turn, you lose all the Psycho rating that you gain from Ghost Helm, so I actually find the strategy to be less efficient. I'd rather not rely on a strategy that can turn off if you make a mistake. Again, I want it to be as easy as possible to win. Anyway, Heinrichs. So, what we're going to do, we're going to inflame again. So, we're going to increase damage. We're going to increase our momentum here. Our Sirens obviously dropped quite a bit because we went past our turn when we got frozen. But what I'm going to do is use Reckless Abandon. So now, because of how high our HP is, because our Medicaid, our damage is going to be obscene. So what we're going to do is we're going to just get a little bit more up from just killing some of these things. And then we're going to Where It Hurts this guy. Now, if we had done this when we still had our 80 plus psi rating, it would have done over 1 million damage. This is probably going to do just under 1 million damage in a single charge. But that's okay, because we still got more AP to do more stuff. But, yeah, so we're going to charge in here. And we're going to get close to doing 1 million damage here. So he's got 1 million health, and we'll see how much he's left with here. So let's see what we did there. So he had 1 million. He's now got, yeah, under 150k. So we did almost 900,000 in a single charge there. And because of all those crits, we obviously got another attack back. And so we do over 100,000 a hit. So he's just going to die there. But if we turned off his interrupt phase, we probably could have done the with our increased siren way more.